I saw a reel the other day that fired me up about body autonomy and laws and gender bias. Join me this week as I charge ahead with all of this frustration and invite you to be an informed consumer in the future.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your menstrual health, offering period solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am going to put out a political disclaimer right now that this week's episode is in no way slanted towards any particular political party. Because believe me, there's a lot of political talk going on in an election year right now. But I saw a reel the other day and it inspired this episode because it really drives home an important point, and one that in an election year, I think is really valid to raise in terms of considering what we want our future to be. So, this particular clip was during Brett Kavanaugh's hearings when they were working on trying to decide if he was going to be appointed to the Supreme Court. So this took place back in 2016. And Kamala Harris, who is running for the presidency, was a senator at the time and was one of the senators asking questions during this hearing process. And the question that she asked him was about body autonomy. And she asked him point blank if he could think of any laws that dictated what could or couldn't be done with the male body. And he looked a little uncomfortable and stumbled over himself trying to answer this question because everybody knew that the answer is no. But she wanted to make him say it, which I really appreciated. So then she paused him and she clarified. So you could see the prosecutor coming out in this exchange. And she asked him, are there laws that tell and dictate what a man can or cannot do with his body? And Brett Kavanaugh was resigned to respond, no, there are not. And this is why I thought, and I was totally inspired to do this episode watching that, because this is a historical event that took place several years ago. And since that time, Roe versus Wade was overturned. Access to abortion has become drastically limited. And again, this conversation is not to bring up pro-life, pro-choice, none of that, right? The conversation is more in this election year. We have an opportunity to decide what we want our reproductive abilities, our sovereignty, our body autonomy to be in the future. And the candidate that we end up electing will have an incredible opportunity to decide how much or how little access we have to the care that we need. And I think that this is really important and a very pivotal moment in our country's history because many countries around the world look at us like we have taken massive steps back into the Stone Age. Not all, but there are quite a few industrialized countries that think that it's rather crazy that we have given women the right to choose for years and then taken it away. There are many people who are concerned that our daughters, our children, are going to have fewer choices than we had. And it raises a really good point around women's body sovereignty and autonomy. There are no laws that exist that dictate what a man can and cannot do with his body. And yet there are tons of laws about whether women have to carry a baby or not, or how they're able to make choices around their fertility or not. I mean, even the proposed Project 2025 discusses pulling IVF as an option for people who want to have babies. So this isn't just a pro-life, pro-choice challenge. This is the government stepping in and saying, we're not going to even offer you the opportunity to have a baby if you are struggling with reproductive challenges. And I think that is absolutely fucking nuts. And here's why. Because we are currently living in a world where fertility challenges are at an all-time high. Sperm count, sperm quality. So those numbers, morphology, motility, and count that you get in a semen analysis are at record problematic lows. You have to have 20 million sperm in order to be considered fertile. And the average male sperm count right now is just a hair over 30. That is a fundamental, colossal problem. The fertility equation is not just a female body. It's so much more than that. But we have record numbers of people who have autoimmune conditions. And usually with one comes more than one. We have massive challenges with fertility. And yet the government is now proposing, because again, this all depends on who gets elected, right? They are proposing restrictions to fertility treatments. So this isn't, like I said, this isn't just a pro-life, pro-choice equation. This is the fact that we have a seriously slanted equation in the United States around what women are able or not able to do with their reproductive sovereignty. If you want to have a baby and you are having challenges, you might not be able to have one. If you get pregnant, it doesn't matter whether it's something you've welcomed or something, and I apologize for the trigger in advance, but, that comes by way of something against your will. It doesn't matter how that pregnancy happens. They're now telling you that you have to go to term with it. But there's no maternal health care support built in. So you still have unpaid maternity leave. We're the only industrialized country that does not have paid maternity leave, which is insane because we're supposedly one of the most affluent countries in the entire world. So why is it that we can't support our mothers and the mental health and emotional health of the next generation? Because it is illegal for puppies to be separated from their moms before 8 weeks. Yet women go to the doctor at 6 weeks, they get this, "Yup, you can go back to work, you can do all the things that you were doing," and babies go into daycare. Human babies go into daycare. So we have a gross disparity in our culture, and when I saw that reel, it just wound me up because this is a conversation we've been having for literally decades. Challenges around maternity leave support, parental leave support, making sure that we're supporting the family so that they can be healthy and raise healthy kids. Women are faced with this double standard of you have to work like you don't have kids, but if you don't have kids, you're shamed for it. You're supposed to be a mom, like you're a devoted stay-at-home mom, but you can't afford to stay home because life is too damn expensive. Like, just think about all of these contradictions. And now the government wants to tell you what you're able to do or not do around your fertility journey. It totally fires me up that female bodies, bleeding bodies, are the ones that get the legal restrictions when we don't get ourselves pregnant. We don't climb on top of ourselves and get ourselves pregnant. There are two people in that equation. And all of the restrictions are on the person who's going to have to go through the 9 months of carrying the body inside of their body, the baby, right? But there's no laws governing the male side of the equation.
I'm going to pause this incredible episode to share an opportunity for you to join me as a reproductive rebel. As you know, I'm a holistic women's health practitioner who practices with a focus in East Asian medicine. I truly am one of a kind in the way that I practice, and that is a part of what makes me a rebel. I am here to disrupt a healthcare model for women and provide natural and effective solutions for all phases in a woman's life. Do you feel called to make a difference in women's health? Whether you are already a practitioner working in this space, wishing to add to your toolkit, or you are just a passionate rebel with a calling to make a difference for others, as I was at the start of my career in this field, the Holistic Women's Health Practitioner Program is open for enrollment. I am looking for passionate, committed, and heart-centered people who desire to make a difference in the women's health space and desire to make it a place where women feel seen and heard, where their needs and concerns aren't gaslit, but really taken seriously and met with compassion and education to help them reach their goals. Does this sound like you? If so, please check out the program link in the show notes and schedule a one-on-one talk with me or join a free information session. Or if you know that without a doubt this is where you want to go, enroll and get started today. Together, we will make a difference for the future of women's healthcare. I can't wait for you to join me.
I have never met anyone as charismatic and downright passionate about women's health as Adrienne Irizarry is. Not only is it just a delight to be in her presence as a friend, but as a student. Her passion for her work, it comes through so prominently, and it helps ignite the excitement that lives inside of me as her student. We literally laugh, we cry, we share, we support. The knowledge is endless, and the infinite capacity of her being for this work and teaching and mentoring is just astounding. It's so beautiful. I can't think of a better instructor to be working with this topic. We are powerful. Women hold the most beautiful power within their beings.
And Adrian is the perfect example of she.
She is the epitome of woman.
And now, back to the show. So I think that this is important, and I don't want to make this a hugely long episode that becomes hugely political. But I think that we're at a really critical point in history right now where we need to truly ask ourselves about where government oversight needs to butt out. Because people's birthing journeys are a very individual thing. And the added piece around potential restriction of IVF just adds fuel to the fire. Because now we're not just talking about pro-life, pro-choice. We're now talking about grieving couples who are struggling to bring a baby of their own into the world, who want to walk that birthing person journey and likely won't have the ability because of government oversight. When did we become so polarized that we lose sight of the human being, the human beings with feelings and emotions and all of these things that are attached to these decisions? When did we forget that? It scares me that my daughters are growing up in a world where they can't choose what is right for them and what is not. This has nothing to do with religion. This has nothing to do with political affiliation. This has everything to do with choice. And the fact that my body, my choice. Because somebody else's political affiliation, religious orientation, their personal beliefs should not override mine. I should be able to choose what works well for me and what doesn't. Could I bring myself to have an abortion? I don't know. Emotionally, I would have a really hard time with that. I've also been a victim of rape. And I think that my decision might have felt very different if I had a pregnancy result from that act of violence. There's a lot of misinformation out there about what people are asking for in terms of choice. And there's a whole bunch of false crap out there about wanting to abort a baby at 9 months. That's not what's being asked for. That's not what was legal before. We're talking about life and death decisions in some cases, where it means the life of the mother or the baby or both. And yet nobody's going to be able to make a decision to save one or the other or both. So these are really delicate times that we're living in right now. And I think that it's really important to emphasize, and this is the whole reason that I felt compelled to do this episode, is that short little reel really drove home for me that we live in a world where women's bodies are regulated and men's bodies are not. And this is the absolute epitome of patriarchal control. What are they afraid of? if we are allowed to make decisions. I shouldn't have to ask permission of my spouse. I shouldn't have to ask permission to make a decision about saving my life. I shouldn't have to die with the fear that something could have been done, but the laws changed. So now me and my baby are going to die, and that's going to leave my partner alone. Like, these are huge life altering problems that we are currently facing. And so, whatever your leanings, beliefs, you don't have to think that, one particular candidate or not is the perfect person. Maybe you don't think any of them are, but I would encourage you to really take a deep and close look at what each candidate stands for in terms of reproductive health when you go to participate in the political voting process, because we're facing more restrictions than ever before. And we have so many health problems that stand in the way of fertility, that make for challenging and complicated pregnancies. And it's happening at an astronomically high level right now. It's really scary what people are facing in the health challenges at this moment in time. So make sure to educate yourself. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of false news, there's a lot of din, there's a lot of people who are on really hard left and right sides of the equation right now with very little ability to communicate with one another in a respectful manner. That also breaks my heart because that polarization leads to more legislation, more regulatory control about what we can and can't do. And we are going to get ourselves into a position where the system does not work and something is going to have to change. When we try to hold on and control something really hard, that's when we begin to lose control of it. So I encourage you, as a reproductive rebel listener, to be a rebel and to invite constructive conversation around some of these topics, because women's bodies are heavily law governed and men's bodies are not. And it's going to take all of us to speak out, to create healthy legislation that allows for choice. Maybe it means providing more education before certain choices are made. That is fine. But we should not remove people's ability to make choices based on the situations that they find themselves in. Because you don't know what somebody else is going through or facing. And we do not have the support structurally from the government level to allow for births that are happening in undesirable conditions. I'm just going to word it that way. So either there needs to be more support for birthing people because now you're forcing us to be birthing people, or there needs to be the ability to make choices to support people's individual circumstances. So I invite you to take a close look at what each of the candidates that are running, what they're committing, because we have an opportunity right now to make it a different world for our daughters and their daughters.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.